So this first video is going to take us from the mouth down to the stomach. So your digestive tract is what we call the GI tract, or the alimentary canal, and that really just means that it's open on the outside on both ends. Okay. So your GI tract really gets ramped up anytime you see, smell, or taste food. That causes your body's hormones and chemicals to start to get released, because your body knows that food is going to be coming soon. It wants to be ready for it. Your GI tract is made up of two different types of cells. One is simple columnar. Remember what that is? Those are single layer of column-shaped cells, and they have villi on the ends of them to increase surface area. We'll see that pretty much from the stomach down to the end of the GI tract. The exception is the mouth and the esophagus. Those are stratified squamous because they're constantly getting beat up and removed due to the food that you're eating. Okay, so you can see here in this picture, you have a lot of blood vessels, a lot of nerve endings, and you have glands that are constantly secreting. And we'll kind of see how that plays in as we move through the chapter. So your mouth has a hard and a soft palate. That's really the top of your mouth. And really, if we look back at the soft palate area, you have what's called your uvula right here. Your uvula will close off your nasal passage right in here when you swallow food, and it doesn't allow food to actually go up into your nasal cavity. Just a little side note, you've probably heard of people getting their becoming tongue-tied because they can't say something. It's actually something that happens to children when they're born. You have what's called your frenulum down here, and sometimes that is way too close to the tip of your tongue, and it gives people a problem with talking because it doesn't allow your tongue to move freely. So you can actually get a simple surgery for that to be cut, and then the tongue is able to move easier. We should know about our teeth. Teeth go through the process of what we call mastication. That just means chew. And we should know that our back teeth, so really our molars, they're used for mashing, and the fronts are used for our incisors, and really our canines are used for biting and tearing. Next, inside of your mouth, you have what are called salivary glands, and you really have three sets. So I always say some people, when they feel like they're going to throw up, sometimes you'll get a very, very large amount of liquid coming out from underneath your tongue. You get a lot of liquid in general, and that's due to those salivary glands that are under there. Now, normally, those are releasing a little bit at a time, but when there's food, and whether you see food or you start to eat it, they will start to increase production because they release what's called amylase. And salivary amylase is used in breaking down starch. So if we take starch, which is a carbohydrate, and you put that in the presence of amylase, amylase will start to break it down into a simple sugar. So this is a simple or simpler sugar for our body to break it down. So carbohydrate digestion is happening in the mouth before it even gets down into our lower system of the digestive system. As that food or that bolus, so this is what we would call a bolus. Okay, as that bolus is moving down the esophagus, it is using peristalsis. Remember, peristalsis is that squeezing motion. So it would squeeze here, then it would push it down a little bit, it squeeze it at number 2, and then it's squeezing at number 3. And notice how it relaxes up above that bolus of food. When we look at the linings, there's really two important ones. One is your mucus lining, and your mucus lining is right here. And we want that to be liquid-based because it allows the bolus or that food to slide down easier. And then you also have your muscular layer, and that muscular layer is in really two directions. One is circular and one is longitudinal, because when you do peristalsis, we need it to squeeze laterally and horizontally. So it has to squeeze in both directions to kind of push that food down, rather than just really wrenching it in one direction. We want it to squeeze and push it down at the same time. You also have what's called your peritoneum, and that is that serous membrane that lines the entire digestive system. It's like a big pouch. Here's an increased look at it. And then you get down to your stomach. Okay, we'll go through the stomach on your next video, but your stomach as that food comes down, it does pass through its first sphincter, which is right here, and that's called the gastroesophageal sphincter. And that sphincter does not allow food to come back up. So it allows food to go through, and then it's going to stop it from coming back upwards. The only time it does come back up is if you have something called acid reflux, which means a little bit of that hydrochloric acid, which is released, that's allowed to kind of move back up, and that will burn the actual esophagus tissue. Or if you are going to vomit or throw up, the food will get past that sphincter. But normally we want that to be closed at all times. So this is your small little beginning lesson on the digestive system. Next lesson we will go through the stomach and the chemicals and everything else that has to do with that.